Hi guys, I've got a fun page in my pocket page notebook for you today using just this one tiny little photo. It didn't quite make it onto a Project Life spread, so I decided to pop it in here. And this is all that's left of my March scrapbook add-on kit from Citrus Twist. And so I used that Heidi Swap specialty paper to create a bit of an embossed texture onto this piece of vellum here. So you can see what I did. I just grabbed the plastic bag that my kit came in, and I've been keeping them because they're handy for this sort of thing. And I've just got some modeling paste here. I have used a few different things to do this, and it works really nicely. I did one in my 31 minutes for 31 days album using this same piece of paper actually, so I've used this as a stencil twice, and it's held up pretty well, I think, considering I'm not particularly gentle with it. And for that one I used some impasto gel with some Perfect Pearls powder in it, and it gave a lovely metallic sheen that was very pretty. Today I'm just using the plain white modeling paste because I want it to stand out a little bit more onto the sheet of vellum. So I'm just using what do you call it? Palette knife? Is that the right term? I think so. To just sort of spread a fairly thin layer of modeling paste over the vellum, and then I did let that dry for a couple of hours before I carried on with the rest of my page. So you can see I did a piece that was bigger than I needed it. I'm gonna trim it for my pocket, which you can't see because I've got my giant trimmer off to the left there, but I'm trimming that over there to fit into my pocket, which I love these pocket page notebooks for putting things like this in it. It gives me this perfect little transparent element to my page, and the rest of the page I'm gonna work on pretty much as one page, so I'm not worried about the pocket in the middle. It's just going to add this really nice transparent sort of textural element once my whole page is complete. So like I said, these papers are from Pink Fresh Studio, and they were from the add-on kit from March for Citrus Twist, and I blasted through that kit so quickly. This is all that's left of it, and I really wanted to use every last scrap that I could, plus it's pink, so I had to use that here. And I'm just trimming down these two pieces so that they will fit on either side of my pocket page notebook. This one is getting quite fat, so it's hard to work on, so I do like using these insert pieces like this. It means I can work flat on my desk and then just stick the layout into my book once it's all finished. Now this is a Pocket Life kit again from Citrus Twist, and I grabbed it out because I saw those black alphas, and because I've already made my photo black and white, I thought the black alphas worked really nicely. And I will admit I did have a title in mind for this as I was doing the vellum piece there, so I did check that I was going to have all of those letters to work with my title. So this kit's super old. I think it might be the January kit, and as you can see I had quite a bit left, so I'm happy to have used up a little bit more of it. I pulled out a couple of journaling cards, and actually I think the black stripe paper might have been a cut down piece from one of the 6x8 papers. So I've just got this 3x4 journaling card which I just ran through my typewriter to add a little bit of journaling. Really, this isn't a huge story, but it was kind of significant. Like, this is my washing pile. It is as tall as I am. So I purposefully didn't fold it during the day. I waited till Shane came home so that he could take a photo to show just how big that pile was, and then I spent a wild Friday night folding washing. So that's my title, A Wild Friday Night, and I did make sure that I had enough letters to do that. Any title that doesn't involve an E is always going to be easier, so I was super stoked when I came up with this title and then actually had enough letters to fill it out. Now I wasn't entirely sure where the rest of this layout was going, so I decided to put my title just onto the packaging from the actual alpha set itself, so I could move it around the page and see where I wanted it to go, but also just to see how big the words are and how I might align them on the page. So that worked really nicely for me. I had thought I was going to put it sort of centered on the page on the left, like I've centered that whole piece on the right, but I actually kind of like it down the bottom here, and I think I'm going to make a little cluster up the top. My original idea had been to just keep this page sort of black and white with the pink background, but I pulled out all these die cuts, and there were a couple that worked really nicely for the subject matter, so I'm going to end up adding a little bit of colour to this page anyway, and I kind of like it, all these pastel-y colours. Interestingly, like, these kits are, what, 3 months apart, and they still work perfectly well together. So as you can see, there's still a heap of this kit left. I still had heaps of these die cuts, so I'm just going through that whole pile of die cuts again, just pulling out any that I think might work with this kind of home theme, I'm gonna call it, not just, you know, my boring life, but my home sort of stories. I don't necessarily tell a lot of domestic stories like this, so this was a good excuse to use those cute little houses. I'm just going to use the one, and because I've already stuck down that card on the right, I wanted it to overlap the card, and if I have the house right at the bottom of the page, it sort of just butts up against it and it looked a bit strange. So I'm going to put it onto the card itself, even though that covers up some of that black sort of floral pattern there. So I'm going to create, well, this isn't even a cluster. I was going to say I was going to create 2 clusters, but this is literally just sticking a house down. I thought I was going to create a cluster there, but in the end I'm just going to leave the house on the right hand side and create a little cluster up the top here, just because that right hand piece is quite busy anyway. So this left hand one is just going to help to balance that out, because the title is quite small. It doesn't particularly balance the big black and white piece on the other side. So I've got just a few different pieces here with no more intention other than to use some of the colors that are in that house. So I've got the teal and a little bit of yellow, some green, and I'm just adding half a pink label in here just to balance out those colors and make sure that they're on both sides of my spread. So I kind of like how it turns out. I did decide to add a little strip of that same black and white striped paper just to tie that in as well, since otherwise it would have tied in anyway, because I was going to do just that black and white theme, but because I've added all these extra colors, I felt like it just needed a little bit of the same paper on that side. And I was just checking with the title, and I'm really pleased with how that balances out. So I'm just going to stick that down, and then I can just snip off the excess, and that's that whole cluster done. It's not particularly, I don't know, labor intensive. It was just quickly gluing things down, and then I'm going to add my title onto the page, and again, this has been one of the best investments that I've made, is this T-square ruler, and you'll see here I'm so proud of myself for how straight the title went on today. Now, Michelle from the Stamp Spot has very kindly given me a discount code to share with you guys. So if you head over to the Stamp Spot and use the code DEE20, that's DEE20, you can get 20% off anything and everything that is in stock in store right now, between now and April 22nd, 2019. So I will leave the link to the Stamp Spot and all the code details down below, but you know I'm going to recommend you grab yourself some Pocket Page notebooks, because I know I will be. And so that's it. Literally all I have to do is stick these 2 pages into my notebook now, and I'm just using a bit of tape runner to do that. I do find it easier to sort of line them up down the center spine first and then stick them down, and that way if there is any overhang, because I haven't measured them properly before I've cut them, I can just use a pair of scissors to cut that off. If you stick them down sort of the outer page first, you end up with a little bit of trouble in the center if you haven't managed to get that straight. I kind of thought that was where I was going to leave the page, but I just feel like it needs a little bit more, and I know that doesn't sound like me because I don't always say that. In fact, I'm usually the complete opposite, but I decided to add a few little black splatters using this Liquitex black ink. I think the ink is quite old because it is quite thick. I used to use this for my brush lettering and I haven't opened it for a very long time. So it is a little bit thick and the splattering was a little bit hard. I should have done my fake splatters with a gel pen like I normally do, but I decided to be brave and give it a go and get it all over my desk too, which hasn't cleaned off very well, I will tell you. So I'm just adding a few to both pages, and after I stopped filming I did go in and actually add some bigger splatters because I felt like these ones were just a tiny bit too fine to be a feature and stand out. So you'll see those in the close-up photos here. Adding some sort of transparent element to the pockets of these pocket page notebooks really is one of my favorite techniques to use, and I am just loving how this modeling paste on vellum piece turned out. I really enjoyed this page. It was fun to put together. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave me any comments or questions you've got down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want to keep watching, there's a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.